less credentialed than Dr. T, but hopefully I give you a little bit of a different insight being a young professional and what I experienced going through school. And but first of all, I'd really like to thank you guys for coming out here tonight. It's really nice to see how many passionate teachers we got that comes out to devote their personal time outside of their busy work day and their schedule that they've got going on to better the lives of hopefully future engineers and better people. So moving on, first we'll talk about, I'll just introduce myself a little bit. I grew up in Overland Park, Kansas, which is just outside of Kansas City. And then shortly after I graduated, I went to Iowa State University, which really kind of were my formative years as far as civil engineering goes. And what I really liked about Iowa State University is that our whole motto was science with practice, which is really what engineering is. I mean, you take science, you practice it a lot. That's how you become a better engineer. That's how you become a better scientist. And you've got engineering. I began working for Burns & McDonnell the summer after I graduated in 2015 in Chicago, and there I was mainly working on construction management, basically doing site work. I was one of the guys that you saw, or that you see on the side of the highway, really looking like they're doing nothing. I hold the clipboard, I come around, see if you're doing some work, it's like, you know what you're doing, looks good. Need any help? Great. I don't know how to do it anyway. I'm the guy that gets to look at the plan and make sure everything looks good and it's good to go. So I just actually moved to Texas this last August, so I'm pretty recent to the area, and I'm actually just a few blocks down the road. And here I've been morely focused on the design side, which is where my passion lies. I did gain a great deal of information and knowledge being in the construction engineering side of things, but in the end I knew I wanted to be a designer because that's where my brain really functions better and where my passion really lies. So what we do as civil engineers, well, we do about everything. I know that's obviously the as broad as you can get, but we do some really, really exciting things to some really, really boring things. You know, we do, the main things, structures, roadways, railways, branch, airports, and everything in between. So this that you can see on the right is something I worked on in Chicago, which is a really unexciting structure until you see it built. What this was a billboard sign foundation. So that you see going along the highway. This was actually just to support a bunch of soil and a billboard. So a lot of concrete. I think we had about 100 cubic yards of concrete going to just making sure a sign could stand up. Which before I got these designs in my hands, like, seriously, we need all this concrete to support this one billboard that's going to sell some dude his BMW in the future. So moving on from that, other stuff that I've worked on. Here. Oh. So this is a bridge that I helped set. This is another thing that I got to experience in Chicago. I worked a lot of nights over there, so doing a lot of structures work. And this is about a 300-foot, so about a football field length bridge that I got to work on. So basically, setting the beams down, lining them up, and making sure it's all going to look good and work in the end. So I think one thing that was really interesting about this is that there's a lot of people involved. I think on this project we had 2 cranes. Obviously we had a couple different man lifts over there, and basically a whole bunch of torque wrenches that go up there and bolt in hundreds of bolts all in one night just to make sure this thing is going to eventually stand up. And to give you a frame of mind, as so you know why some of these things take a while, I think in one 10-hour shift, we were able to set 3 beams. And that's not the full beam; that's one span. So, and that involves 2 beams in there. So it takes a while, and it's really interesting to see all that stuff come together. And so some of the really, really unexciting things that I've gotten to work on. So as you can see here, this is a parapet wall, or the side wall that you'll see along the highway going home tonight. All that rebar is in there just to make sure that wall stands up. And basically I stood outside all day making sure that slip form machine is going to pour concrete around it, making sure everything's going to look good. Held a ruler next to the rebar, making sure there's a 1/4 inch clearance between the rebar and the concrete. Super exciting, super good use of my 4-year degree. And then on the right, this is actually the only thing that I've inspected in Texas, roadway striping. Awesome stuff. It's really exciting to go out there. It's shiny, looks great. But still, it's all very important because this is what's going to keep you guys safe and what's going to keep everybody safe, making sure that they can see the roadway signs and keep everyone going in the right place. So, why is civil engineering important? Well, there's a lot of reasons. As of 2013, the ASCE, or American Society of Civil Engineers, gave the U.S. infrastructure a report card of D+. So, as you guys know, you wouldn't graduate college with that grade. That's, I would have gotten a lashing. I don't know about you guys, if I would have gotten a lashing from my parents growing up, if I had come home with if that on my report card at all. So that's obviously a pretty big need. Along with that, they reported that we needed about $3.5 trillion of investment just in our infrastructure system. That's along with ports, health, roadways, bridges, anything you can think of. And directly affecting you guys, we need $270 billion just for schools. And that's not really universities, that's just your high schools, your middle schools, your elementary schools, just to make sure that these kids can go to school safely and have the resources that they need, just from the structure side of things, not including anything they need in the classroom. So obviously, with the increasing need for a better infrastructure and repairing the infrastructure, we need an increasing supply of young and willing engineers. And these engineers will be people that are going to design it. They're going to be the ones out there looking, inspecting, making sure the shiny stripes on the road are straight, and doing everything in between. So, what are the qualities of good engineer? It's pretty easy to say, oh, good engineer needs to be great at math, needs to be good at science. I never really liked this. I thought that was always kind of a cop-out in saying what a good engineer needs, because a lot of these you can practice. You can practice on being good at math. You can really put your nose to the grindstone. Obviously, there's going to be some people that understand it and pick it up easier, but what you really need is a good, really strong enthusiasm for it. If you really enjoy the work, if you really enjoy what engineering has to offer and what it can do for the world, then I truly believe that you can put in the effort to make your math grades it. I'll be the first to admit, I had tutoring in math, not in all my classes, but in some of my classes. I was probably above average in math, but there were some courses that just didn't click for me. I took it in, going from Algebra 2 honors in high school. I took it, and then I was able to learn how to study in that class. And then eventually when I got into college, I took tutoring for classes like calculus, 3 and differential equations. Just because when you get to those levels, it's really just kind of warping your mind and trying to figure out how you're going to study best for a specific class. I think that's a lot of what teachers can do for their students, is teach their students how to study. It's so often overlooked just to get the facts out there. But what you need to really know how to do is how to learn new material. Because there's, every day I'm still going into the office and I'll ask my coworker who sits behind me, who is my task lead, hey Sierra, I'm looking at doing this for our drainage structure. Do you know what we need to do? She's like, well, no, I really don't. See if they've done it on any TxDOT jobs before, or see what you can find online. So it's literally, we get a 4-year degree, get our basics down, go and Google it, see if anyone knows anything. Obviously, you learn about having an idea of where to look, which is a big thing to gain, and then just kind of figuring out what might work if you do kind of create something. So going on from that, you need to be a good communicator. That goes from speaking to writing presentations to a big one is typing. Every engineering proposal you have, and every proposal you're going to have in your life has got to be written. And this includes contracts, basically stating why this needs to happen, stating why, we need $2 million more to do this the right way, and then TxDOT have to come back and say, well, we'll give you $500,000. Well, that's a quarter of our budget. We're going to need at least $1 million. Okay, we'll do that. So it's a lot of that, going back and forth, being able to kind of convince people who really don't want to give up any money. Obviously, you don't want to give up money. I don't want to give up my own money unless there's proper justification. And then problem solving. That is a huge one. And that also kind of goes back to the enthusiasm section. If you have that enthusiasm, you're going to be more likely to continue to research, continue to look and do things in your own time to really be able to solve a specific problem that you might have. Perseverance. Again, this will tie back to enthusiasm. Perseverance. I remember when I was going in a freshman in college, I was taking Calculus 2. By far, at the time, that was the hardest class I'd ever taken. I really thought I wasn't going to do well. I remember I actually thought I was doing great. I thought I had gotten a B on the midterm. I thought I was doing fine. Well, we get to a week before deadbeat. So right before finals are coming around, found out I got a D on my midterm. Scared me half to death. I think I called my mom that night, like, hey, I think I might fail a class. I think I'm going to drop. And my parents were like, no, you don't get a drop. You're either going to take a grade and retake the class to swap it in, you don't get a drop and not take the final. So basically for the next 2 weeks, I studied my butt off, and I ended up with a B in the class. It's really interesting how some of that stuff will work. You just got to communicate. You communicate with your professors, communicate with your teachers, and usually good things will happen for you. Big one that I think you can see in your students right away is curiosity. You're going to have those students, and I think the students that will be really good engineers, they're going to be curious about the world. Civil engineering in particular is really a big time world science. You need to know what's going on around you at all times because it impacts the environment, it impacts the cities, and it impacts everybody that's around you. And that's what I really like about it. When I really kind of narrowed down what I wanted to do, which was actually in high school, which was a lot earlier than a lot of people, is because there were so many factors. You had to manage millions and millions of people on a daily basis, and be able to kind of predict how they would react to things. And let me tell you, people will do some crazy things and they really don't know what they're doing. It's kind of going back to Dr. Chang's picture with the bar. I've seen that happen. We do our best to prevent people from just going around barricades. They do it anyway. So it's the best, if we're going to put in something permanent like that, is finding the best way to prevent people from doing that. It's the more you look into transportation studies and whatnot, is a lot of it is psychology and figuring out how people are going to react given a certain circumstance. And then finally, really a desire to learn. Any good professional is going to learn throughout the career. That's why you guys are here tonight, and that's what I continue to do on a daily basis, is learn. Learn what resources are available to you. Learn what people have done before, and how you can incorporate that into what you're designing or what you're teaching, because that's how you become better at your profession. You can't come out of school and think, well, that's it, done. I know how to draw a curve. I know how to do this. That's really the start of it. That you don't come out of school and you realize, oh, there's specifications for all this stuff. Just because I know that this will be safe according to the American Association for Highway Safety Administration, basically the governing body for this. Well, TxDOT likes to take that and make it a little safer. They don't want it to be the bare minimum. They want it to be 5% safer. So it's taking what you have learned, expanding on it, and continuing to grow your resources. And I couldn't put a presentation together without including a Bruce Lee quote. So, what is defeat? Nothing but education. Nothing but the first step to something better. again, a lot of what got me through school and a lot of what got me through the tough time in college was realizing that you weren't ever really defeated. You were just learning the wrong way to do things and learning how to overcome those and make it right. So what can you as teachers do? What can you do as teachers to garner interest for your students? Well, firstly, you want to encourage all your students. You know, I've met a lot of friends of mine that turned out to be great engineers that weren't great at math. They weren't necessarily great at science, but they had that perseverance. They had that enthusiasm to put their nose to the grindstone and really figure it out. I've also met a lot of kids who are very, very gifted in math. I knew a kid who, I think he ended up going to Michigan to study physics, and I think he was taking Calc 3 in high school. Insanely intelligent kid, was not very good at communicating though. He would not have been the best civil engineer. He just wouldn't have. So I think what we really need to get away from is only helping out those kids that you think are the best at science and the best at math. Because I had that a lot growing up. It's like, oh, you're good at math, you should be an engineer. It's like, well, I want to be an engineer, but that's because I think it's interesting. And that's what I think is important. That's what I think is really important. So how can you encourage these students and how can you foster their interest into growing onto their career? Hands-on activities. You know, something like this is I threw this together in about 20 minutes last night, I think. And I can pass this around if you want to take a look at it. It's a simple little popsicle stick. I think I did that probably 3 or 4 times going through school. You know, it's kind of fun, something for the kids to do. Also watching documentaries, you know, something like Modern Marvels. I remember when I was in high school, I took a STEM course that was called Project Lead the Way. It was a 4-year program. Seems like some people still know it, which is great. It's really good to know that because I know when I started that was like a brand new thing. And Modern Marvels on the Cowboy Stadium had just come out, I think that year that I started, and we actually watched that in class one day. And it was really, really cool to see how something like that, you know, the truss structure going over the stadium, and unfortunately I haven't had a chance to tour it yet, but from what I hear, it's absolutely astonishing to be able to go inside and get this awesome view of, you know, being able to see everything in the stadium from any point in the stadium. So I think that, you know, just something like that, bringing the kids to show them something like that in the real world, if that is available. Again, I'm sorry if I don't know if that is exactly available to you. But local field trips, yeah.
Virtual tours.
Do they have those?
Yeah, Google's got a bunch of stuff where you can
That'd be great, yeah.
do like VR field trips.
Oh, cool. That'd be great if you could do something like that, even, you know, in the
The
classroom.
stadium does do educational tours.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had our gifted and talented out for my daughters and she's gone. Girl Scouts has gone, Boy Scouts has gone. They do a lot with it, with the community.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great to hear, because I know when I was in my STEM courses in high school, I didn't get a ton of opportunities to go on field trips, but we did do a lot of hands-on activities, so we kind of got that, you know, in other aspects. But when I went to college, some of the cool things we did were, I mean, we went to a mine, I think, once. We went to a local mine outside of Ames, Iowa, and got to just see all the big machinery and how all these different foundations and whatnot work. So stuff like that, you know, just getting the kids outside of the classroom, allowing them to experience new things, I think would go miles for it. Because that's what, you know, that's what worked for me. I think that's what would work for a lot of kids. So moving on from that. So we've talked about this popsicle stick, or kind of more advanced version is the balsa wood bridge competition. I say it's more advanced just because it is kind of difficult. I mean, I did this in high school and I really struggled with it because basically in ours it was a competition to who could hold the most weight at the bottom, similar to something like that. as opposed to how much the structure itself weighed. So you could have a glue fortress, that had wood out of everything and be able to hold, 200 pounds. But if it was 3 times as heavy as a person who's held 50 pounds or who's held 100 pounds, well, the guy who's held 100 pounds is going to win just because it didn't weigh a ton. Which is, really is the heart of engineering, especially civil engineering. You can't over-design things because, again, things cost money, and the weight of things makes things more challenging to hold other things up. And one thing that I found out, another demonstration that I've learned about in college was this river erosion. And it's more of a visual thing, and I always really enjoyed this because it always took place in real time. It's a natural phenomena that occurs over, well, in some instances it takes place over decades, but in instances like the Grand Canyon, it takes place over millennia. So it's pretty cool to see this if you could play that video.
Alright, so this is the stream table. We're set up with a couple curves or meanders. Curves are called meanders in the stream. Notice right now that down here in the ocean, when we hit the ocean, there's really nothing there yet. There's a little bit of water, but no big deal. So we're going to put some food coloring in, and what I want you to notice is that the food coloring kind of moves towards the outside of the curve. To the outside of the curve here, outside of the curve here. That is where I have my fastest stream velocity, where the fastest water is really flowing. You can see it go from this outside of the curve and move over here to the outside here. Do one more. There it goes. So the point we're trying to get across is that the fastest velocity water is on the outside of the curves and the meanders in the stream. So we have a close-up on a curve here. What you notice again is that the fastest moving water is here on the outside of the curve. That's where we're having erosion. We see that piece just slumped right in. And then the slow-moving water is at the inside of the curve. When we get deposition, we're putting particles down there. We're building up the actual stream bed down there because that's where the slower-moving water is. So we've put a large rock in the stream. What it's doing is it's slowing down the water right behind the rock. If you're real close up on it, you can see a sandbar starting to form. What that is that's deposition happening with that slow-moving water. We're getting a shallow area of the stream because we're depositing onto the stream bottom. To carry sediments, when it hits the ocean, we get the deposition of a delta. The water slows down, it's got to drop whatever it's carrying, and we get this landform here, which we call a river delta.
So one of the things that I always really liked about this, and I always thought that if I hadn't gone into civil engineering, I would have gone into geology, is that, especially with sand, you get to see all this stuff take place, and it's very interactive, and it's pretty easy to set up. I think that one was just some sort of basin that you can get at like Home Depot, and like one of those thin water tubes, and just sending water down into a small area, and you don't need a ton, and it'll eventually, channel through the sand if you create some sort of river. And it doesn't take long for your students to see some sort of reaction. And unfortunately, that's something I didn't get to witness until it was a pretty big scale in college. But I think it'd be something that would be pretty easy to set up in your own classroom. That'd be fun for kids to experiment with as far as the deposition and every other type of landform that can come from a situation like that. So let's see if there's any questions. I know I rushed through some things kind of quickly. Probably didn't touch on things as much as you might have liked me to. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.